It's Monday night, and you know what that means. The Jersey First Television Network proudly brings to you the latest edition of Real Talk. And yes, I am the generational talent in Garden State Media, and I'll certainly continue to be the weapon of mass disruption, ladies and gentlemen, because my level of honesty, now more than ever, is truly necessary in this era of journalistic deception. That's right. It's me, Fernando Uribe. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. Hope you had a wonderful weekend. Got to enjoy some good drinks and some good Irish food over the weekend. Obviously, a lot of celebrations going on all the way down Atlantic City, all the way up here in nearby Jersey City. So hopefully you all got to party responsibly and enjoy the St. Patty's Day festivities. And of course, I want to thank you all for tuning in from wherever and however you may be doing so right now on Facebook Live via StreamYard, also on the Jersey First YouTube page, along with X, Instagram, LinkedIn, and also on YouTube. And folks, listen, I'm immensely grateful that you're making this a part of your Monday night viewing. If you have not done so already, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you like us on all of our social media platforms. Of course, like us on Facebook. Of course, follow us on Instagram and X. And for everybody that subscribes to us on YouTube or hasn't done so already, it takes 5 seconds. I've counted, actually. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. You'll be automatically notified of all the great content brought to you by Jersey First TV. Of course, whether you get your podcast on Spotify or SoundCloud, subscribe to that, and you'll be automatically notified of all the great programming we bring you every single week here on Jersey First TV. So whether you're walking your dog as the days are getting a little nicer, right, folks, after daylight savings time, the sun's out a little bit longer, you're maybe walking your dog, doing some errands, hey, maybe going for a run, whatever it is you're doing, I'm pretty sure you have your smartphone with you. So why not check out Jersey First TV anywhere at any time? And I can't say enough, folks, what a privilege it is to be on the dream team of Garden State Media. That's right. It is Jersey First TV, folks, as always, educating and advocating for the residents of our great state here in New Jersey. Brand new episodes of the Nader Narrative premiere every Thursday. Check your local listings, of course. And it is hosted by my outstanding tag team partner, the great Elizabeth Nader. And of course, every Monday night live, check your local listings, of course. You can check out Real Talk right here, live and in living color every single week here on Jersey First TV. Folks, you want to stick around. We got a jam-packed show for final thoughts. I'm going to have a lot to say about some of the wannabe journalists in New Jersey that just are really just professional agitators, nothing else. So we'll be talking about Leonard Filipowski during final thoughts, obviously, and certainly the latest scam from him was exposed by HuffPost, one of the better news sites here in Hudson County. So we'll give you a little bit more about what's going on with Leonard. And folks, unfortunately, all the minions that seem to support him. And well, again, folks, I mean, this is awful here. I mean, who wears white socks and brown shoes and a tank top like this to ride a motorbike? God knows. But again, folks, this is one of the many comedic stunts you can expect from Leonard Filipowski. And of course, the rest of the minions that support him and just seem to fixate on always harassing Union City Mayor and State Senator Brian Stack, who's doing a stand-up job up here in Hudson County. More on these clowns, folks, and why it's so easy to expose them, whether it's via HuffPost or on this show. You definitely want to stick around for that. And folks, also, listen, I talk about it all the time on this program. There is no shortage of Trump derangement syndrome here in New Jersey. And you know what? This week's edition of TDS, I think, belongs to my good friend, the executive director of the New Jersey Alliance for Immigrant Justice, folks, Amy Torres, who, of course, it's interesting what battles she likes to pick and be on the wrong side of. But of course, we'll be talking about Mahmoud Khalil a little bit later. And of course, it seems like Amy feels the need to chime in when it comes to this, let's be honest, folks, this jihadist who's been causing havoc, destroying property on university campuses, which I think is wrong. I mean, so if you're going to be all about against deportations, Amy, I mean, if we're talking about people that are here on a visa and, obviously are expected to follow the laws of the country you are, a student of and received a visa from, I don't think it's too much to ask that Mahmoud Khalil follow the laws of the United States. But that's a little bit too much for Mahmoud. Of course, that's a little bit too much for Amy to process. And it seems that, when other, journalists in New Jersey, like, David Cruz and the others like to acquiesce or coddle Amy Torres, well, I don't like to do that on the show. I'm going to tell you the truth and really what's coming to Amy Torres, and it can't come soon enough as far as I'm concerned. I'll share that a little bit later during final thoughts. You definitely want to stick around for that. It's not to be missed. Folks, again, like, comment, and share tonight's episode. A lot to talk about here, folks. We just went through a very sort of tribal and very exhausting election cycle, but here in New Jersey, there's elections going on every single year. And of course, this year in 2025, we have a lot of interesting municipal races, certainly that I'll be covering on this program, as well as also the state assembly races. But folks, ultimately, and what's really on our radar is the gubernatorial race coming up in November. But we have very highly contested primaries coming up in June for both the Democrat and Republican parties collectively. A lot of interesting candidates. And of course, let's sort of figure out, fact from fiction about who are the best candidates during this primary race. And who better to help me break this down than the distinguished director at the Rebovich Institute for New Jersey Politics at Rider University. Folks, he is Micah Rasmussen, joins us live right here on Real Talk. Micah, how are you, sir?
I'm well. Thank you for having me, Fernando. It's great to be here.
Good stuff here. And folks, again, if you haven't done so already, do check out Rider University by going to www.rider.edu if you're looking for an affordable education, a great campus, outstanding faculty, and really like a lot of great services for students and parents alike, obviously, that are investing their money and sending their kids to a good institution. Check out rider.edu, folks. And of course, Micah, the Rebovich Institute is one of the things that's come to define Rider University in recent years. I know the job that you do there is really exceptional. But for my audience that's not familiar with the Rebovich Institute, what's the day-to-day?
So I was an undergrad at Rider many, many years ago. The professor, my mentor, was a guy by the name of David Rebovich. He was sort of the go-to guy when it came to questions of New Jersey politics for a long time. And unfortunately, he died in the classroom in 2006. And Rider decided that they wanted to keep up the work that he did. And so I didn't come yet. I came another 10 years after that. But I am so honored that I had the chance to step out of my corporate role, the things I've been doing. And I taught one morning a week in my spare time since I left government. I did this, going back a number of years, always very rewarding to me to work with students. And so when the opportunity came to take it full time and take over the Institute and to continue his work, I thought, wow, what an honor this would be. So here's what we do. We set up students in student internships in government, in politics, in campaigns. When I was in school, we did maybe one internship over the course of our time. In these days, students are taking 3, 4, 5 internships. By the time they graduate, they are a known quantity. They're rolling right into the field. And this is a differentiator. This is something that they can come away with a lot of experience. And so it's been great for them. We do commentary on New Jersey politics, and we also sponsor debates, public debates. You were at Rider for the Republican one recently for governor, and I was thrilled that you got to see what Rider's all about. It was great to have you, and so we're proud to provide these voter education tools. Let voters see for themselves. That's really what it's all about. Not sort of editing things for them, but to let them see these candidates up close and in person.
I mean, it was great to be there. Actually, I was there for both. I did a post game on both of them, and I got to tell you, shout out to David Wallstein, the editor of the New Jersey Globe. Good stuff there. Obviously, partnering with you and Rider, along with everybody else, to get those debates off the ground. Before we jump into obviously the political climate right now, though, Micah, take us back into like the days leading into that debate. I mean, I was there for both nights, and my God, getting that set up must have been exhausting for the staff. So shout out to the great crew there that worked at Rider. I'm assuming the AV team, everything else. What went into that? Like, what was the whole planning for that, bro? I mean, that looked overwhelming.
That's a great question. And so logistically, you're right. David is the glue. David is the one who has the relationships with all the candidates. You have to understand that there are sanctioned debates that the Election Law Enforcement Commission requires candidates to do. This was not one of them. This was not one that the candidates had to do. So it was by virtue of David getting to them first, by getting to them early, by lining them up, by locking them in. That's the only reason why we were able to get 10 candidates on that debate stage. And so that was a pretty cool thing. You are absolutely right. The On New Jersey technical crew, the video people who put together that set, who put together, the whole production, that was really, we are so happy to be working with them so that we're not just doing sort of live streams anymore on the internet. It's a much higher production value, much professional, far professional to anything that we could do. So we're so grateful to have them involved. And then some of David's partners who put together the behind the scenes, the set that you saw, that was stuff that came from the Globe. Trump and Kevin Sanders, and then Joey and I get to do sort of the pure stuff, the policy stuff, the questions. And my students were wonderful. I had about 20 or 30 students who were involved in bringing candidates in the building, getting them to the right place, getting them where they needed to be. And so they were thrilled. They learned so much. They had such a great experience out of this. It took a village. It honestly took a lot of people to put on a production like that, but we were so glad to be able to do it.
Folks, if you're just joining us right now, it's 6:10 here on the East Coast. Like, comment, and share tonight's episode, ladies and gentlemen. My guest is Micah Rasmussen, the director of the, now you corrected me, so I like it, the Rebovich, I said Rebovich, sorry, the Rebovich Institute for New Jersey Politics at Rider University, our guest tonight here on Real Talk. Mike, I got to tell you, I mean, again, I was just exhausted watching all of it. Obviously, as a big WWE fan, Sunday night with the Democrats was pretty civil and cordial, but Tuesday was, I thought it was an episode of Monday Night Raw. For all the WWE fans out there, they understand, like, sort of the Attitude Era with Stone Cold Steve Austin. It was a little rowdy there. Obviously, you along with David and Matt Rooney, Laura Jones, obviously, and the whole crew during those 2 days. I mean, I can imagine the preparation for that. What went into the research, the questions? Like, how did you prep for it as opposed to everybody else?
That's a great question. And David and Joey and I and Matt as well, when it came to the Republican debate, really worked over the course of a couple of weeks to figure out what are the major issues. What are the ones that people are talking about, that people care about? And that's why we zeroed in on education. That's why we zeroed in on affordability. That's why we zeroed in on New Jersey Transit. And I think you're going to hear more from us on those issues because they're clearly the issues that voters care about. They don't care about sort of the pablum that maybe the campaigns want to put out. This is the stuff they're talking about. They want to hear how a new governor is going to take us in a new direction and how they're going to advance the ball. And so we sit down and we huddle several times and we refine our questions, and then leading up to the hours before the debate, we refine them some more, and we make sure that they mesh with each other. There's no overlap between each other, and so it's a finely tuned machine for sure.
No, it looked exhausting. I needed a drink as soon as I got home. I had to rewatch it again because one thing is actually being in the auditorium there at Rider, and then obviously another thing is being home, looking it over again. So again, great job by you, Joey Fox, David, Laura Jones.
Really glad you were there. That was
Matt
great.
Rooney. Yeah, no, it was. Listen, I love doing the post game on both nights because I think it gave my audience what I thought was a pretty honest, concise, summary about how the debates went. So, and we'll get to some of the municipal races that are kind of hot this year in New Jersey. I know by me, Hoboken, Jersey City is really, really, really hot right now. We have the assembly races, but let's get to the governor's race. And obviously, Governor Murphy is term limited. He'll be completing his term later on this year. Right. Obviously, a very fickle primary coming up in less than really 90 days.
It is.
On June 10th for both the Republican and the Democrat side. Let's start with the Democrats first. And I don't want to sort of go candidate by candidate. I'm going to just throw some observations out here. But, Mike, I got to tell you, man, again, I'm much more conservative than you are. Obviously, I look at what's been going on for 8 years under Phil Murphy. Listen, I'm not a fan of Chris Christie by any means. I mean, the only thing I can tolerate about Chris Christie is that he's a fellow Dallas Cowboys fan. That's about it. Other than that, I don't like anything about Chris Christie. But he left office in 2018 after a $29 billion budget. We've seen it almost balloon up by double into this budget cycle. And I think that for Democrats, whether it's all six, obviously Sean Spiller, whether it's Josh Gottheimer, Mikey Sherrill, Stephen Fulop, Ross Baraka, Steve Sweeney, I think there has to be sort of a very careful line to walk because, again, you don't want to throw the governor under the bus, but when they're running ads about New Jersey needs to become more affordable, my first reaction, Micah, is like, well, why is that? And I think that the last 8 years kind of give us a glimpse of it. I'm looking at these candidates, and it seems like some of them are the progressives, but they want to up the progressive on the progressive. And to me, I think that, listen, New Jersey's a very unique state. I think it's very purple. I think there are pockets that are as red as my shirt, and there are pockets that are as blue as Windex, and then everything in between. How do you see this race right now between these 6 Democrats?
Well, it's funny that you talked about that, how the budget is increased, because one of my students asked them that. He said, look, if the budget goes up by the same rate of increase over the next 8 years, we're going to be looking at a 90 or $100 billion budget. And what do you have to say about that? And what are we going to do about that? And you did get the sense that there were some of those candidates on the stage who didn't really have a plan for how we are not going to let that happen, right? Because, let's face it, services are expensive. Educating kids is expensive. Running a transit system is expensive. There's no question about that. But there are some of them, like Gottheimer, who are talking affordability, who have ideas and plans about affordability, and there are some who, like you said, seem to be trying to figure out how we are going to pay for it all, and whether that means the taxes just continue to go up. One thing that's very clear that I think that some of the candidates on that stage got is that there will be no third term for Phil Murphy. Voters have kind of had enough. There's only one time historically in the last 80 years when we've given a party more than 2 terms in a row, and that was almost a historical accident. New Jersey, as you say, we swing back and forth, and history would suggest that it is time for Republicans at least have a chance to make an argument here. And I think Democrats, the onus is going to be on them to answer back why it's not going to be a Murphy third term. The candidates that get that on the Democratic side are the ones who are going to be rewarded. The ones who don't get that are the ones who I think are going to have a penalty, because, as you said, it's not as if New Jersey voters are so much farther progressive than the rest of the country or anything like that. I would say that they're blue collar. I would say that there are blue collar sensibilities. Everybody's struggling with taxes and affordability like everybody else. And that's always been what New Jersey voters vote on the basis of, is economic issues and how candidates are going to be perceived as far as what they're going to do about that stuff.
No, great breakdown there. And let's get a little more specific here. I'll sort of give you my take on the 6 individually. I'll see, tell me whether it's true or false. But let's start with Sean Spiller, former mayor of Montclair, or as Chris Christie used to call it, the People's Republic of Montclair, right? The current president of the NJEA, very powerful teachers union. A union I have some issues with. Obviously, I think that they really try to coerce, or they did coerce the state to keep the schools closed longer than they should have been, in my opinion. But that's a matter for a different day. Obviously, a lot of hoopla about, where he's getting this money from. He's running a lot of ads.
Yeah.
I got a whole stack of mailers here from everybody. It just seems like what I'm hearing, though, Micah, whispers are telling me that, listen, he's in it to win it, but he's kind of looking like perhaps maybe he wants to be somebody's lieutenant governor running mate, or, should Cheryl, let's say, and I'll get to Mikey in a minute, but should Cheryl win the primary, he'd like to maybe kind of sneak into that congressional district and maybe be that representative. That's how I'm looking at Sean Spiller currently.
It's a good question. And there's no question, I think, the teachers, there's this $35 million PAC money that is being used to support his campaign. He's not really raising a lot of money on his own. This is all NJEA money. And, the NJEA clearly feels like, or the people who are running this PAC with teachers' money, we assume we'll see those dots connected as those reports are filed, but I don't know where else that money would be coming from. They clearly feel like this is the way to advance teachers' interests. And so they feel like they're getting a bang for the buck. And I agree with you. You wonder whether he's running for lieutenant governor. You wonder whether he's running for something else. He didn't choose to run for re-election as mayor of Montclair. There were, quite frankly, some scandals and controversies in there as far as payment of benefits to people that weren't supposed to be getting them. And so it was not something that was necessarily viable for him to run even in his own town for another term. I don't know whether maybe even conceivably, as you were talking about it, education commissioner, and that might sound beneath somebody, but if the agenda is really to advance teacher interests, then getting himself on the inside here, getting himself as prominent a spot here, a big as platform as they can get, that seems to be what makes sense for teachers, because it's not necessarily to fund a $35 million vanity campaign for somebody who doesn't have a great chance.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. When it comes to representatives, Gottheimer and Cheryl respectively, I mean, again, they came in on a big sort of momentum in 2018, right? Obviously, during the first midterm of the first Trump administration, obviously, they've been solid fixtures in their district. But what have we learned since November of last year? I mean, again, resisting Trump and fight isn't going to be enough in New Jersey, where, again, we have the highest property tax in the country. They just went up again. Certainly, I think we just saw on December 1st the last phase of the gas tax
Yep.
Even though gas is going down, like up by, I'm not sure how it is down by you, but up by me, it's like 275. And
That's it here. Yep.
but when you do the math of the gas tax, though, Micah, I mean, we're paying about 60 something cents more because of the gas tax. So really, gas should be almost around $2. We're seeing increases on the tolls in the turnpike and the expressway. So it's like, wait a minute. It's like, I get you want to resist Trump and you want to be, fight. But at the end of the day, it's like, okay, you're great fixtures in your district, but is that going to be enough of a message when, you've been living in New Jersey? You've seen what reckless spending has done to New Jersey. I look at them as, yes, they've been, whether or not they've been good in their districts, that's another debate, but they've been working in their congressional districts, but they haven't been on the ground with residents as it pertains to statewide issues. I think that maybe is a problem for both of them.
I think so too. I think you saw the difference between the mayors who are eating and breathing state policy every minute of every day, Steve Sweeney, who certainly was in command of state policy issues, and the federal legislators who are not drilling down on state policy every day, as you say. Look, the gas tax is absolutely a bipartisan thing, right? You remember that. We know that was a Chris Christie, the automatic increases every year. If there's not enough money going into the pot to get all the federal money back out for road projects, then the tax goes up automatically every year without a vote of the legislature. A lot of people were mad about that. That was something that is part of the law now. So you're right. It's not enough to generically say, well, it's unaffordable, or, well, I'm anti-Trump. There's an obligation, and there's going to be a reward for candidates who can say, well, what comes instead of that? You don't just get to say, no, you're against something. You also say, well, you want to occupy the chief seat. You want to be the guy running and the gal running the direction of the state for the next 4 years or the next 8 years. What comes instead of the gas tax? If you don't like the gas tax, if we're not affordable, what do we do instead of that? And that's what you're not hearing a lot of yet. I hope we're going to hear it as the next 90 days unfold.
No, absolutely. And now let's get to the mayors. Obviously, mayors Baraka and Fulop collectively have very different cities. And yes, Stephen Fulop was the first guy to announce, raised a lot of money. It almost seems like you're driving on the parkway or the turnpike. You can't miss a Steve Fulop billboard up there, obviously. But up by me, when I've been a lifelong Hudson County resident, lived in New Brunswick for a time when I went to Rutgers down there. But the bottom line is, when I drive through Journal Square in Jersey City, though, Micah, I feel like I'm driving through Gotham City. It's like I'm looking at Wayne Tower. And if you know anything about Jersey City and the way it looks compared to 10 years ago, yeah. I'm like, gentrification comes to mind. Mm-hmm. Pricing out lifelong residents comes to mind. And it just seems like, okay, you've been progressive, but you've also made Jersey City much more expensive. You've let developers kind of run wild. And to Newark, listen, I'm a big Devil fan. Love going to Prudential Center. Love eating in the Ironbound section there in Newark. Love walking to Prudential, walk back to my car. But I mean, other than some development, Newark is still crazy dangerous, man. And it's like, wait a minute, like what exactly is there to brag about with these cities where there's still some crime in both cities? And it seems like you've let some developers come in and just, yeah, sure, these expensive rentals and these condos, that's cool. It gets you near Penn Station and all that. But at the end of the day, like, do these mayors really have the executive experience to handle a budget that's so much bigger when at the municipal level, they haven't really been as responsible, I think, as some people believe they should be?
It's a very fair question. They are definitely some of the best known candidates in the race because they have run the big cities, especially Baraka, right? We're finding that he's sort of got a surprisingly familiar name to people. Maybe it's because it's different. Maybe it's because he's been mayor for a long time. But the mayor of Newark carries a certain cachet. So I think that what has happened in this race between the two of them is that they're sort of splitting their vote right apart. I don't think that Fulop counted on Baraka to do as well in the debates that he did. He came across as funny. He came across as authentic. You can absolutely ask those questions legitimately, and we should be asking those questions about his ideas. But he came across as likable, and I don't think that that's quite what Fulop was expecting to have happen. I think he stole some of Fulop's thunder, and I think at this point they are probably going to prevent each other from getting more traction because they're going for a lot of the same voters. They're going for progressive voters. They're going for not establishment voters that Cheryl seems to have a lock on. So they're going to that outside lane, and neither one of them is going to get as clear a shot as they would if they were not both in the race.
No, certainly great points there. And last but not least, we have the guy with arguably the most experience in Trenton.
Right.
And that's former Senate President Steve Sweeney, who, again, has a lot of experience, has worked with different governors. You know, when we think about why New Jersey's got more expensive, though, Micah, in recent years, you know, kind of caving to the governor during COVID, a lot of mandates that look back on it, you know, maybe should have stood up to the governor, and he didn't. You know, Steve Sweeney has a lot of experience, but I think that there's a lot of liability there with him, because when we think about why we have the highest property taxes in the country, why a lot of these bipartisan measures like the gas tax, to your point, right? It's to fund the transportation trust fund. But I don't know about you, man. When I'm driving, I'm not really having a lot of, you know,
we're not feeling like we're getting to drive on luxurious roads.
I'm not really trusting the transportation. You know what I'm saying? So I think that Sweeney, again, brings a lot of the most experience, but a lot of liability, man. Again, when we think about why New Jersey's in the state that it's in fiscally, you know, it's hard to overlook that Sweeney's had a hand in this for sure.
He owns a piece of it, and he owns it even longer than Murphy, for sure. He was Chris Christie's partner as well. And so, you know, for better or for worse, if it was pension reform, that was something that Sweeney was part and parcel of, delivered votes for. If it was, you know, the gas tax, that was certainly something that he delivered the votes for as well. And I think that he is not going to shy away from that, because look, there's no getting away from it. He was, you know, he believes in putting union boots on the ground. He's a union official, lifelong union official, iron workers officer. So I think that his shot, Fernando, is that if he is able to get a solid South, if he's able to get enough votes out of the 7 southern counties. Remember, here's the thing about the math involving this race. Because you have 6 top contenders that we're talking about here, and they really are good candidates. They all have strengths, they all have weaknesses, but they're top tier, right? No question, right? So they're going to split up about 750,000 votes at the outside most in the primary election. That means somebody's going to win this race with not a whole lot of votes, 200,000 votes, 250, something like that. If Sweeney can get 200 or 250,000 votes out of the South, he's cooking. He's got a shot.
Yes,
so, you know, I mean, I think they're all potentially viable. Some have more than others. And I would agree with you when you say, you know, Cheryl is looking like the front runner, but it looks like Sweeney could be right at her tail conceivably. He's got a path here with that solid South behind him. Florio did the same thing in 1981. There were a ton of North Jersey candidates running, splitting up the vote. And because of that, he came out of the South with a solid South, and it was enough to get him over the finish line with a bunch of other candidates.
I mean, we're still 3 months out, and again, polling's very unique. I mean, I think sometimes we're skeptical about polling. I think we've learned that going back to 2016, so it's not the most precise science. More on that later, in the sense of whether or not polling is disappearing. But if you had to call it now, it's still 3 months out. But right now, gun to your head, who do you see winning, and what percentage?
So I think you would have to say that Cheryl has the front runner status. I don't think that you can argue that.
Yeah.
It looks like maybe the counties that she's got the endorsement of, which is different than having the county line, right? That's a big change now. But she's got the endorsement coming out of these counties. It's about half of the counties, half of the voters in the primary election. That's a lot, right? Sweeney's got about 30, 35%. Gottheimer's got about 20%. The rest of them are going sort of disaffected Democrats, outsider Democrats. So she's got a lead, but it's not an insurmountable lead. And I'm not comfortable saying that I think that she's going to win by any sizable lead at this point. I think that if you again, put the gun to my head, yeah, she's ahead, but I don't think it's by a lot at this point. I think that Sweeney's right at her tail.
I'm a gambling guy. I think I'll sort of call this and tell me what you think. I would say Cheryl wins with 18%, and I think Sweeney's close behind at 16%.
That's very possible. That's very, very possible. And Baraka is up there in the top half too. You know, but yes, I think that's entirely possible. Which means we're going to have a lot of vote counting to do. It's going to be a close race then in that case.
And let's go to the Republican side. Obviously, less candidates. Former Inglewood Cliffs Mayor Meyer Kranjik got late into this race. I mean, I don't know what the hell he was thinking, waiting until arguably Groundhog Day. He's
been talking about it for a while and then didn't pull the trigger. I don't know what was going on there.
Yeah, I don't expect him to get any traction here. I know he's got a certain conservative base that likes him, but I don't see him getting any traction. I like former State Senator Ed Durr, who unseated, coincidentally, Senate President Steve Sweeney back in 2021. But to the best of my knowledge, though, Micah, Ed hasn't raised any money, so I don't know what
$0 so far.
Yeah, I don't see Ed lasting too long in this. Again, nothing against him. I was the first guy to interview him. Really, I was the first guy who got the scoop once he beat Sweeney. Literally 2 days later, I was the first guy to get him in an interview. So that's one of the bigger scoops I've ever gotten.
Nothing against him at all. I agree with you. I mean, look, he beat Steve Sweeney with almost no money. But there's a difference between being in one district and now you got to run in 40 districts statewide, and you got to drive your message. So money isn't everything. I'm a firm believer in that. Look, I mean, Trump was probably outspent by a lot of money in the presidential race. It doesn't mean everything, but you got to have a way to drive your message. And I don't see Durr's message really getting out there in the absence of money at this point.
No, that's a fair point as well. I think that, listen, he's a nice guy. He's always been a gentleman to me. Come on to the show. We can have great conversations. But if you're not raising money, if you're not getting county apparatuses behind you, it's a tough hill to climb.
You want to see sign. I agree with you. When I think about a chance of a challenger, I want to see any signs of life. And you just rattled off a couple of them. You got to see something if you're going to say, all right, this person has a chance. And if you're seeing nothing, then you're like, all right, what are we even talking about here?
Yeah, I mean, and that brings us next to State Senator John Bramnick, who, yes, he can be conservative. A couple votes he's had, I think, in recent years that kind of bother me. But I look at John Bramnick, but this isn't meant to be offensive. You could be a nice guy, but you can still be a little vanilla. And I think that's the problem John Bramnick is running into. Again, I don't know what his elect numbers are. Don't know what he's raised. I know at the League of Municipalities, I think he hosted one of the parties that people throw. Listen, I think it was barely a turnout there. There isn't a lot of energy around John Bramnick. I know he's positioned himself as like this Republican, sort of a real Republican, an anti-Trump, anti-MAGA type of Republican. But I don't think, again, in a state like New Jersey that's kind of purplish, I don't think a guy that's lacking charisma and a clear message is resonating with Republicans. And that's Bramnick's problem.
So I think that a lot of people would say that his chances were somewhat sealed when Trump not only won the presidential race, right, but also did as well as he did in New Jersey. And so can you be an anti-Trump Republican in a time where Trump seems to have been surging? And I think part of the answer there is if Trump hangs in for the next 6 months and, is where he is and the economy is where his supporters think that it will be, then I think it becomes very hard for Bramnick to make the case there. If the bottom falls out for Trump, then Bramnick gets a little bit of I told you so. I don't know if it helps him or not, but more of a case to be made than right now where Trump seems to have public support even here in New Jersey.
And very much the way that Democrats have to look at this primary based on what's going on in Washington. And again, there's still 3 months to go. And I was telling a lot of people statewide, like by Mother's Day, about a month out from the primary, if we're seeing the economy picking up, again, the cost of eggs has gone down. We're seeing gas going down. We're seeing interest rates for mortgages going down. So we're seeing some economic progress. Very much like Democrats are going to have to run on something of a message other than we don't like the president. Republicans are going to have to really energize people to want to get them out to vote. Primary turnouts aren't always great. No. And last November, listen, early voting, vote by mail. Republicans were energized, Micah. I was in Wildwood. I was in Wildwood last May. I was there in the press pit covering the president's visit to Wildwood. I mean, I'm not going to get into the semantics of, but it was a pretty full beach. I would say 50,000 people. I'm not going to get into what it was. I don't want to Oprah what the number was. But the bottom line is, I don't think we need to waste time on that. But it was a sizable crowd. The bottom line is that there's no need for the president to come to New Jersey this year, per se. He's not on the ballot. And I think maybe based on these Republican candidates, and we'll get to the other two in a minute, I don't think there's an urgency by the president to weigh in on this in New Jersey anytime soon. But again, very much like Democrats are going to have to find a message other than just resist and fight, fight, fight. If certain things pick up, yes, Republicans can run on that, but there has to be energy. And I think that's the concern when it comes to the other two candidates. When it comes to Bill Speedy, I like Bill personally. I live in North Jersey. I really don't get NJ 101.5 FM unless I listen to it on my iPad. I don't get it in my car. But again, I like Bill. He's conservative. I know that there's been some accusations of flip-flopping over the years, but I like Bill personally. But I don't think, listen, if he was running in Tennessee, I think Bill's a shoo-in. But in New Jersey, where there are pockets that are, again, as red as my shirt, Bill may not resonate in parts that are a little purplish. And I think that's the challenge that he faces. And he's raised some money. He's gotten some endorsements. Yes, he got the, to use a pro wrestling term, he got the rub. Donald Trump put him over last summer when he came to Wildwood, and he's there in photographs and everything. I think it's still a big hill to climb for Bill when maybe New Jersey isn't as conservative as he needs them to be.
It's a really good analysis that you're making for two reasons. One, you got to think about 101.5's coverage area. You got to think about where they are and where they're not. And then two, you got to think about that big band of blue that runs between Philadelphia and New York. And that's the most populous parts. I agree with you. Driving through Northwest New Jersey, mountain man territory, right? Bringing my daughter to camp in Wharton, you see those signs. You see that he's, a rock star there. If you go into Ocean County, you're going to see also outside that blue, most populated band, that corridor, that New Jersey Turnpike corridor. If you go into Ocean County, he's also a rock star there. But you're right. The numbers just aren't with you if you are just in those red pockets of the state. You need to break through in the populated part of the state. And, it remains to be seen whether or not he can do that. I think that if Trump gets involved in the race and if Trump decides to endorse Spedia, that gets a lot of attention. That gets him the look that he might need to get from a lot of Republicans. But I also agree with your analysis that Chitterelli is certainly making the case in Trump world that you don't want to be on the wrong side. You want to be with him. If New Jersey is really important to you, you want to be with the right candidate. You want to be with the candidate who's got a chance of winning. And so I don't see Trump really, look, it's anybody's guess. Anybody who says that they can predict where he's going to go with this is, it's a fool's errand. But I don't see the compelling reason for him to get involved right now, which is, I think, what Spedia needs.
No, that's a fair point too. Folks, if you just joined us right now, it's 6:33 here on the East Coast. Like, comment, and share tonight's episode, ladies and gentlemen, as the director of the Rebovich Institute for New Jersey Politics at Rider University, Micah Rasmussen, joins us here live on Real Talk. And again, Micah, let's get to Jack Chitterelli. This is his third time running for governor. Ran against Lieutenant Governor Kim Guadagno in 2017. Close race there, but again, came up short against Kim Guadagno. Ran against Phil Murphy in 2021, came within 3 points of beating the incoming Democrat governor. Again, we were just coming out of COVID. There were pockets of the state where Governor Murphy was not popular. I think that we can hopefully we can meet in the middle on this, where looking back on it, I think the governor did a lot of things wrong during COVID. I think he kept the state shut down longer than he should have. Schools, I think businesses suffered. I just think that it wasn't enough. And even despite a lot of the anti-Murphy rhetoric, what Democrats are really good at is that they may not like someone, but they'll hold their nose, they'll go to the voting booth, they'll close the curtain, and they'll press that button. What went wrong for Jack, I would argue, is that, you had Republicans in kind of a, fickle primary with him, Phil Rizzo. I forgot what the other gentleman's name was, the perpetual campaigner. Yeah. It'll come to me. Oh, Hirsch Singh.
That's it.
And, a lot of Republicans stayed home. And I think the numbers I heard going back to November of 2021, I think only 38 or 39% of registered Republicans voted. That's awful. That's why we got a second Murphy term. Yeah. Republicans can't get fickle here in 2025. Otherwise, we're going to get a third, possibly maybe a third Murphy term. And I think that's the hill and the optic that Jack has to battle.
Yeah, it's interesting. Your number is right on, because we only had 40% turnout of all voters, and there was certainly not a lot of interest among unaffiliated voters. They were lower interest than Democrats or Republicans. It's funny. I think that Republicans and Democrats have a similar issue in terms of motivating their voters. Right now, New Jersey Democrats are not getting the job done as far as enthusing their voters, giving them a reason to come out and vote. This is why we see such poor turnout. Now, you could argue they're winning on low turnout, right? They certainly won in 2023 in the legislative elections with very, very low turnout. People almost didn't even know that there were elections going on, but they have had some close calls. The governor's race was too close of a call for them. The presidential race was too close of a call for them. And that was a year when voters are supposed to come out and vote. A presidential race, even if you don't vote for anything else, you vote for president. Certainly Trump supporters got that. Trump voters came out and voted in the presidential race. The question is, are enough of them going to be motivated to stay out and vote in a non-presidential race when he's not on the ballot? I agree with you that that's a struggle, and it's something that the nominee is going to have to contend with. But I also think Democrats have that battle too. I don't think that they're getting that job done. I think they've got to figure out how to motivate their voters. They're not doing that right now, and I think that's part of what's giving Republicans the chance that they've got in New Jersey is that Democrats just they're kind of asleep at the switch. 25 years is a long time to be in the majority, quite honestly. Yeah. It's the decadent period. It's the time of decay, and it's you got to figure out another trick because it's not there. That's why you got to hope, if you're a Democrat anyway, you've got to hope that Cheryl is, wants to be the new standard bearer of the party, or Gottheimer wants to be the new standard bearer of the party. Somebody's got to have new tricks because they're sort of tired at this point, and they got to figure that out. And again, I think Republicans do too. But this is a low turnout state. Yeah. We get good turnout in the presidential races, not so great turnout for governor. 40% is nothing to write home about.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to Jack, I mean, again, gun to my head, I'll sort of put this out there. I think that Jack probably wins this maybe like 52-46. I think Bill's probably going to have the better turnout of everybody else that's challenging Jack. Now, again, certainly Mario Kranjik and I think Durr, to some extent, maybe splinter a little bit of the vote that are MAGA supporters that would be for Bill originally. I think Bramnick will probably finish towards the bottom. I see Jack getting across the finish line. And if that's the case, that would bring us to Cheryl and Jack going into the fall. And I would argue, though, Micah, that Cheryl's got to be careful as well. I think, what do we learn from, because I was there and I go every year, during the League of Municipalities, I mean, I remember, in 2023, going into that League of Municipalities, the governor was walking around with the first lady, and there was a lot of backlash. Eventually, Andy Kim, the representative at the time in the 3rd Congressional District, fought against the county line, had it abolished. But there was a little bit of a, listen, we don't want this woman shoved down our throats. I think Micah has to kind of tread very carefully, because you don't want to get that stench of like, oh, the establishment's all for her, and this is who you need to vote for. I think Cheryl's got to really tread carefully that you don't want the Tammy Murphy effect of the establishment being in for you, also being in for her. Is that fair to say?
I totally agree with you that, and I don't know whether it's a fair thing to say or if it's not a fair thing, but I think the way you battle that to make sure that you don't come across that way is to be bold, to have your own ideas, to not look like you're a product of the machine, to be above that, to strike out, to share your ideas with voters, to be aggressive. Look, there's a reward for that in the Trump era, right? I mean, people want their politicians to stand for something, and I think that's the solution for her, and I think that's what she's got to do so that she's not perceived as somebody who is being shoved down anybody's throat, right? I think that's the answer for her. I also would not disagree with your assertion of where you think things wind up in the Republican primary with Jack. And the reason why I think that's entirely possible is because I think that Durr and Bramnick and Spadia have made a very big mistake. I don't know that they had a choice, but they left the insider lane, the Democratic county organizations across all of the state. They left that entirely to Jack. Jack is the only guy competing in like 19 of the 21 county conventions.
That's right, yeah.
He's getting unanimous support. And I know they're doing that because Jack has run before and he's known to them and he's got the inside track and he's got their support. But you're leaving the biggest lane to him while you're dividing the outside lane. And I don't think that that's necessarily a winning dynamic for them.
Yeah, and again, as we get after the primary, we'll go through the summer and people's attention span. Let's be honest, as soon as the weather gets warm, people are down the shore, we're vacationing. People aren't really paying attention per se, except political junkies like you and me
Right.
that are following this, almost hourly, right? So it'll be interesting as the fall comes around and the leaves change color and everything else. What the message is going to be. Again, if the economy picks up a little bit, I think that the biggest challenge for Cheryl, who I think is going to win the primary, is going to be, listen, it's got to be a message that's clear cut about spending,
Yeah.
about property taxes. It just can't be about, weaponizing reproductive rights, Mike.
No,
Again, New Jersey's a state where it's been codified. So we can't be weaponizing abortion. We can't be, doing things. And I think also too, the optic of, hey, maybe New Jersey and the topic of sanctuary state came up a lot during the two debates at Rider University, where if we're seeing dangerous criminal illegals getting, shipped out and, ICE is working or trying to work with some municipalities, Cheryl might run the risk of we can't just run on resisting Trump.
No, I would agree with you wholeheartedly. Do I think that the constitutionalists have a point when you say that that the president shouldn't be ignoring judges? I do. But you know what? Do most voters stop and think about that subtlety? No, most voters think he's getting rid of the bad guys, right? And those are splitting hairs that maybe voters aren't splitting. It doesn't become a compelling winning issue. I think public opinion has moved decidedly against Democrats on immigration. I would be very afraid if I were running as Democrat to be running on immigration. I think you're right when you say, look, can you run on some of the abuses or could you run on protecting Social Security? Could you run on something like that? Sure, you could. Well, first of all, that's not a state issue. It's a federal issue. But you got to be careful not to just be generically anti-Trump. That's not working for Democrats. It hasn't been working for Democrats. I don't think that's going to work for Democrats. He'd have to really tank between now and November for that to be a winning issue for them. And it just hasn't worked for them in recent years at all.
And on the flip side, if Jack's the nominee, he's going to need that same energy turnout last year, early voting, vote by mail. He's gonna, and I hate to say it, even though his own words are, "Hey, I can run my own campaign. I don't need someone to come in." Again, and if the economy's picked up and we're seeing some positive trends, Trump's going to have to come in here to New Jersey and campaign for him. I think that's the only way Jack could get across the finish line.
So if I were Jack's campaign, I would be looking at those 350,000 Trump voters who came out in New Jersey that aren't coming out for other Republicans. And I would try to make a very exciting argument. We've got them on the run in New Jersey. We've got a chance here, right? All that stuff. If you just come out and vote. Do I think that's going to do it by itself? No, I don't. But I think that you got to do something to say, hey, we could take this state over here. We could really reverse decades of history here. And you can be a part of it. If you show up like you showed up last year, then we've got a shot here. And look, Republicans are out registering Democrats in terms of new voters every single month for the last 2 years, 5,000 votes at a time, 2,000 votes at a time, right? Dribs and drabs. So excitement is definitely on the Republican side. They are growing while the Democrats are sort of sleepy. And they've got to figure out how to keep that up and how to get out those Trump-only voters that don't really like to come out for anybody but Trump. How could you motivate them? What could you do? You said it. Maybe get them here. Maybe get him rallying. Whatever you can do. But Jack is certainly Jack's got an inside argument to make to Trump people. He's got people in his campaign who are very close to Trump. Spady has got that too. They are all in Trump's ear trying to make the case that they are the one who can make the case to Trump. I think at this point, again, we're guessing, we're speculating. He's going to hang back. He's going to see what happens, see what develops.
Yeah, I think there's no urgency for him to even jump in this and weigh in on it for sure. You mentioned about some Democrats running for their lives politically. I think that's the best way to summarize Assembly Democrats this year, right? Obviously, all moving into another statewide race. Obviously, all 80 state assembly seats are up for grabs in all 40 legislative districts. And some bad news, though, Micah. Obviously, energy prices are going to be going up in June.
Yeah,
electricity. Could you get worse timing if you're a Democrat in the state assembly when it comes to this where – again, I think you said it before, Democrats have had control of the legislature for more than 20 years. Yes, Republican governors have come and gone, Democrat governors have come and gone, but the consistent dynamic here is that Democrats have controlled both chambers of the legislature pretty decisively. In the state assembly right now, it's 52-28 for Democrats. I believe it's 21. I'm sorry, no, it's 22-18, I think, in the Senate. I could be wrong.
I think it might be 23. I think it's 23. But anyway,
23-17.
whatever it is. Yeah, but the Senate won't be up this year.
Yes, it'll be up in 27.
Right. It's only the Assembly that's up this year. When you have that many votes, it is hard to imagine that you're going to hold every seat, right? It's hard to imagine that you're not going to lose some ground. Democrats are almost victims of their success in that they have every seat that they can possibly have and then some. So you almost start from a position where Republicans are going to be on the offense because there's nowhere else for Democrats to run on the offense this year. So there's that. And I can make a historical argument that we deregulated electricity and we prevented companies from saying that you could own both distribution and generation at the same time. You did that before Democrats, but that's 25 years. So again, if Democrats wanted to do something about that law, they could have done something about that law. And so they are definitely on defense as far as that goes. I think that there are districts in Cumberland County. So you look at Ed Durr's district, right? He lost the last time. And I think conceivably you would say that maybe those assembly seats that have gone Democratic too, those would be logical places for the Republicans to prioritize. South Jersey's been voting more and more Republican, more and more Trump-like. So those would be high on the list. You also have District 11, which is out at the shore. You have Vin Gopal, who is the state senator there. He's got 2 Democratic Assembly running mates who he pulled in with him 2 years ago. They're brand new. That is the only district that has been split in recent years, right? Up until that election, you had Republicans and Democrats. You had a Democratic state senator, Republican assembly members. Republicans would like to gain back there. They would like to win those seats back. So I think that's a logical place for them. And then you have to go further into North Jersey. They're going to try in Bergen County. They're going to try in some of those suburban blue-collar towns in Bergen that voted for Jack 4 years ago and that voted for Trump this time. So I think that's where they're going to try and make some gains.
I mean, Micah, but to be fair though, man, I mean, at the end of the day, and you're right, because going back to some decades, obviously there was some deregulation that you made aware of, that obviously made our audience aware of. But at the end of the day, right now, like, people care about now. And you're right, like that was a big to do with everything that's gone on. So obviously it's had an effect for sure.
You're right.
Question, but is the average voter going to remember this? Is the average voter going to think about that? And
not at all.
The challenge that
not at all. The only thing I will say is the solution that's being talked about by both parties is, well, let companies do both. Let them distribute and let them generate power. And so that is what we prevented them from doing all those years ago. That's my only point. I agree with you. There's 25 years that Democrats have had to fix it. If they saw a problem with the law, a problem with deregulation, they could have fixed it. And the reason they didn't is because it hasn't been a problem up until now. You bid on electricity every year. The prices were very high this year for a confluence of reasons. And so now it's finally caught up. And now they're looking at fixes, but they're behind the 8 ball. The prices are going to be high for the next year. They're locked in for the next year. So customers are going to be paying $25 a month more in their electric bill, $25 a month more on average on their electric bill for the next year. That's pain, and people are going to feel that, and people are going to vote based on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it could prove to be disastrous for Democrats. And again, in a year where Republicans can make some gains in the assembly, again, no one's expecting a full reversal, but
they won't reverse it. But
but right now it's 52-28. If you can get into the 30s and steal some seats in central South Jersey and get into the mid to early mid 30s,
so then you can climb again in 2 years. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. So I think that there's a lot on the line for sure. And without a county line for Democrats, that's also proving to be extremely fickle.
Yeah.
Even up here in Hudson County, for example, which brings me to my next point, where no county line for Democrats. I'm not sure exactly. You can maybe educate our audience on where it stands for Republican primaries right now in New Jersey, but Democrats, obviously no county line. Just share with us real quick, what is now the reality when it comes to ballots moving up into the June primary? Good
question. And Fulop has been the real instigator of running challenger candidates against incumbents. He's got about 30 running mates across the state that he's recruited to run against incumbent Democrats. And so talk about not ingratiating yourself with the regular establishment party. He put himself firmly on the outside here. He's the reason why 30 incumbents have to run a contested primary. Nobody's happy with him on the inside of the party right now, but he has made the bet that if I can get these challengers mobilizing for their own races, then they're going to mobilize for mine as well. And I've got running mates around the state, and that's how I'm going to build a statewide organization. He's now trying to build a rival organization to the party in an age where at least rival organizations have a chance, because they're not going to be buried on the ballot anymore. They've got at least the opportunity that they can make that they're getting the same ballot position that the party is getting. And we've seen already in the race to succeed Congressman Payne, there were a dozen candidates who got involved in that first lineless primary because they didn't view themselves as taking on the party. So I think there's some evidence to suggest that Democrats, renegade Democrats, are taking this lineless primary to heart. Republicans have been at it with challengers for a little bit longer. They're a little more spirited. They have drawn challengers. Remember, the heart and the soul of the Republican primary between the moderates and the conservatives been going on for a while. And actually, I think that that's been one of the reasons why there's been more enthusiasm on the Republican side, is because they have choices to make in their primaries.
I mean, and again, the primaries are going to really give us an understanding of where the electorate is. Usually not a great turnout during primary season,
Nope.
especially in New Jersey. And I think, to your point, yeah, that works in favor of Democrats. Again, they still have a registration advantage statewide. So I think that that's something to certainly look out for, which brings me also to it's a local race. It's a legislative race, but it's also a local race too. Up here by me, I know you retweeted one of the county committee people up here in Hudson County, with Hudson County Republicans. And, my mayor and state senator, Brian Stack, out of the 33rd legislative district, has been in really an ongoing war with nearby mayor, North Bergen Mayor Nicholas Sacco for over 20 years. And it's been a historic rivalry and feud that's really consumed Hudson County politics for more than a quarter century. And obviously after redistricting, and not to sort of bore our audience with a history lesson here, but after redistricting, the 33rd legislative district absorbed the township of North Bergen. At the time, Nick Sacco was a state senator. And, that famous dinner that they had at Waterside in North Bergen, where Sacco told Stack, listen, I'm not going to primary you. You can have that state Senate seat in the new 33rd, but I'd like to have a say in the new county chair and one of the assembly seats. And Stack acquiesced to him. Great. There was a piece for, I don't know, maybe a cup of coffee. Who knows? But obviously, the Democrat chair that Sacco selected endorsed Stephen Fulop. There was a war. Then a new county chair was named, Craig Guy, who also happens to be the county executive. He rescinded that. They ended up endorsing Josh Gottheimer last summer. That got rescinded, and now they endorse Representative Sherrill. It seems like, obviously, Stack's assembly assembly candidates are in a war against Sacco's candidates. And there's been a lot of discussion about, a mailer that went out about State Senator Stack asking residents in the 33rd legislative district, specifically Republicans, to, hey, if you can, please consider switching registrations to Democrats to help our candidates, not just the assembly one, but the sheriff candidate, get across the finish line. Because ultimately, if that happens, that's one more nail in the coffin to possibly bury the Sacco regime in Hudson County. Micah, at the end of the day, people might say, well, Uribe's a Stack boy. Of course, he doesn't defend him. Like, Republicans don't do this. Like, Democrats don't do this in other counties. So I think the outrage is a little selective outrage.
No, I hear you. Well, let me say this. First of all, Brian Stack is very good at winning. He's very good at
get out the vote. Yep.
He knows where he needs votes. And so if he's asking Republicans to flip to vote and then flip back, he believes that he can win if he does that, right? I mean, he doesn't do anything for his health. He does it because he thinks he's going to win. He's better at organizing than almost any other elected official in the state that I can think of. And he's widely respected for that. So I don't think anybody takes that away from him. I don't think anybody begrudges him that. But I think that Democrats do have a right to ask themselves, right? You're right. Is there mischief where Democrats flip and vote in the Republican primary so that they can influence who becomes the Republican nominee? Yes, that happens. Do Republican voters flip so that they can try and influence who gets elected as the nominee on the Democratic side? Yes, that happens. But I don't think we've seen a lot of cases where the standard bearer of the party says, hey, voters from the opposite party, come and have a voice in who our nominee is on the Democratic side. You can help us nominate the candidate that I want to win. That's not usually something that, like I said, I think voters do that. But I think for the public official, the elected Democrat to say, I want you to help influence who my party nominates, that was unusual, right? I think Democrats have a right to ask themselves, is that what they want from elected Democrats? And look, maybe some activist Democrats will say they don't like that. Maybe some will say that's completely inappropriate. That's not what I want. But at the end of the day, Brian is a big boy. Brian knows what he's doing. Brian knows that he's inviting that criticism. Brian thinks that if he can get Brian thinks that if he can get some of those votes that way, that's going to help him win this election. And then you can criticize whatever he wants, but he prevailed, right?
I mean, Mike, at the end of the day, it's chess, not checkers, bro. You know,
I hear you. I understand. I think you can also understand where party people might say, wait a minute,
absolutely,
we should be picking our candidates here. It shouldn't be the other party picking our candidates.
No, listen, that's a fair argument. But again, as I said, that, you know, for people that may not be familiar with the dynamics here in Hudson County, I mean, there's such a heated rivalry here about Stack ultimately, because, you know, he's been doing that. Obviously, we knew after redistricting, Sacco wasn't going to challenge him in a primary. He was going to get decimated. Everybody knew that. That's not me being, you know, malicious. That's the truth, you know. Listen, if anybody has a better GOTV ground game than Brian, please name them out there, folks. I don't know it. You know, so I think he's going about it in a way that, yes, it invites some scrutiny, like you mentioned, but it's not unheard of. I know people are saying, well, is this legal?
It's definitely legal. There's no people can change registration whenever they want. New Jersey law allows you to do that. So we shouldn't be, I agree with you. Let's not confuse this. He's not asking anybody to do something illegal. The question was just from Democrats, is this who we want picking our nominee? No, but people can totally, New Jersey's laws allow you to change party and vote in the other party, in the other primary, if that's what you want to do.
No, and that's fair. And again, we'll see what impact that has, because I think it's fair to say that his assembly candidates will get across the finish line. But again, the goal is to get Bayonne Mayor Jimmy Davis across the finish line and beat the incumbent sheriff, Frank Shalari. Remains to be seen. Again, the 33rd Legislative District, very top heavy in Union City, West New York, Weehawken. You get some votes in Secaucus as well. It can override what really comes out.
I understand it. I understand it. Like I said, anybody else wouldn't know exactly how many votes they need. This is a guy who knows exactly what he needs to do and where he can get more votes, right? He knows that he's got pockets of Republican support. And so I'm going to draw from them. I'm going to draw from wherever I need, because somebody on that ballot, some Democrat, is going to need those votes to get over the top. And he's the smartest at this game as anybody. So he knows what he needs to do.
No, he's the best at it in New Jersey. Again, not just saying it as a homer here, but it's the best that really exists out there in the state. Remains to be seen, obviously, what happens in June, because turnout, again, like anything else, is key when it comes to these races. Now, let's move on to some municipal races also on the ballot this year. Up by me, Micah, Hoboken, Jersey City mayoral races, as fickle as can be. Council races, obviously, we'll start with Jersey City. I want to pick your brain about this one. Former Governor McGreevey running along with current councilman in downtown Jersey City, probably the most progressive part of the city. James Solomon running against County Commissioner Bill O'Day, former Board of Education trustee Musa Bali, and City Council President Joyce Waterman. Very fickle. Again, normally mayoral races get decided in May. It's in November now. I think it reverts back in 2029. But there are people that announced 2 years ago, and it's getting really, really fickle in Jersey City. We have council races. This ballot might look like a scroll out of like Game of Thrones, bro. You know what I'm saying? That's what
it's because these mayors are leaving their spot, right? Philip is leaving their spot. Ravi Bala is leaving his spot. And so that's what's creating these openings. And it tells you a little something about how powerful these spots are, that it's drawing former governors into the race. It's drawing so many local community leaders into the race. This is for a lot of marbles. And so that's why everybody's jumping into this race. And I used to work for Jim McGreevey way back in the day. I was his press secretary, and I will tell you that his name ID, it's definitely universal, right? Everybody knows who he is, Everybody knows of his experience. Does he come with that baggage? Absolutely. Of the scandal that drove him out of office? Absolutely. But look, Cuomo is trying to do the same thing right now, a former governor trying to get into a mayor spot. And they are trying to use their name recognition, their notoriety, their executive experience to carry them over the top, to just swamp the other candidates in the race. I don't think that O'Day and Solomon and any others are going to be swamped out of anything. I think that they're in touch with their communities. I think that they've been remarkably resilient. They haven't been big-footed so far in this race, in like you said, in the 2 years of this race so far. And it's going to be really, really interesting. I always find it interesting when you have these pack of candidates because it lowers the number of votes you need to win the election. And that means that anybody can do it. That means that a lower number of voters means that it's easier for them to achieve. Remember, Brett Schindler became governor in Jersey City as a Republican because of how many candidates, the rest of the candidates who were in that race that year splitting up their vote. And so stranger things have happened.
Certainly. And right next door in the mile square city of Hoboken, the birthplace of Sinatra, obviously, and the birthplace of baseball, I think, if I remember correctly, always.
Yes, I think so. Legion Field.
Mayor Bala is choosing not to run. Certainly, he's choosing to run one of the assembly seats in LD32, the new LD32, which is comprised of Hoboken, downtown Jersey City, and the Jersey City Heights. So that's a very interesting race. But in Hoboken, we have all council people right now. We have Councilman Ruben Ramos, Councilman Michael Russo, and Councilwoman Emily Jabbour.
Yeah,
Mike, I got to tell you, again, as a guy that lives nearby, Hoboken has become one of those
is this a People's Republic? Is this
again, you know, it's I try to keep it a family show, but there's so much woke bullshit in Hoboken, bro, that it's aggravating to me. But again, it works in that city. But I think people are kind of getting tired of that act in Hoboken. Kind of early to say right now where the needle is moving. But again, you know, I say this all the time, man. Like, it's not about pronouns and identitarian politics. It's about public safety and property taxes in Hoboken. I think that at some point when Robbie Ball came into office in 2018, yes, you wrote an executive order, you made a sanctuary city, you're all about pronouns, you're all about, you know, repainting the sidewalk and crosswalks with rainbow colors. That's great. But 7 years later, bro, I think that there's a little pushback, not because we're homophobes or anything like that. I just think people are concerned about everyday kitchen table issues.
That's it. That's what the mayor spot is all about. Mayor spot is about, is the city flooding? Mayor spot is about whether or not the city has the schools that it needs, right? These are rubber meets the road issues. There have been, since you, like you said, since the last election in Hoboken, they turned down that major proposal for the high school. Now, that's not a school board issue, obviously, but there are major issues facing Hoboken at this point. There are major issues involving infrastructure and flooding in that town, right? So I agree with you that mayor is a spot where we expect competence. We expect the city to be well run. That's what we need more than anything. That's what's life and death in a city, is whether or not it's well run, whether or not it is, the roads are passable, whether or not you can get from point A to point B, whether or not places people want to come and invest in the city. Those are the questions that mayors need to answer.
Micah, in your capacity as director, again, at the Rebovich Institute for New Jersey Politics, certainly you work with a lot of students. I'm sure they try to pick your brain. For anyone that checks out Micah's Twitter feed, obviously, I think we can.
I'm not shy, right?
No, I think it's safe to assume, bro, that I think you lean more than center left. I think I wouldn't call you a progressive. But
I'm not a progressive. I'm definitely a moderate, and I'm definitely somebody who believes that government can do some good. I definitely believe that, and I want to believe that, and so. I listen, I've worked for Democrats in my life. I have been happy as an academic to leave that behind, quite honestly, even if some people don't think I have, but I've been happy to do that. Because quite frankly, I have Republican students, I have Democratic students. I want to be helpful to both of them. I want to be trusted to both of them. And so I've been it's been liberating to be able to say, all right, Democrats, in fact, I think I've been a pretty strong critic of Democrats, quite honestly.
No, you have. Yeah, no, you have.
And I think that maybe that comes from where I've been. That comes from having been worked with them many years ago, is a sense of where they need to be, and then they're not getting there.
But Michael, let me ask you this. So, I mean, I sort of think of you more as maybe a classical liberal, which is right, or maybe center left.
You know what? It's hard. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe.
Center left. Okay. Having said that, I just think, listen, I think extremes are bad for both sides. You know,
Yes, I
I think
agree.
myself as a center right person. I'm not a
I
far
agree.
right person, but I think that right now we're living in a time where, man, just a few months ago, we experienced a political cultural shift, right? Where,
Mhm,
you know,
mhm.
contrary to 2016, Donald Trump just didn't fall back into the presidency, right? There was a mandate, swept all the swing states, won the electoral college decisively, the popular vote decisively, flipped many counties nationally. It's not because I think, and listen, one made some inroads with a lot of demographics, Hispanics,
Mhm, mhm.
blacks, Middle Eastern, college educated women, men 18 to 25. I don't, Mike, I got to tell you, I don't think it's because, the country's becoming bigoted or we're homophobes or transphobes
No,
or
I don't think so
xenophobes. I
either.
just think that maybe progressives have gone so
Bear
far
with
left, Micah.
bear with me. I'm just turning on the light here.
No,
Sorry.
not a problem. I just think that there's an element of progressives that have gone so far left, the fixation on woke policies, identitarian politics. I mean, listen, if you're that progressive, do so at your own peril. But I just got to tell you, in my opinion, they're not going to win elections anytime soon. If you want to lean this hard left, if that's the flag you want to plant, hey, have at it. I want you to keep losing elections. I think it's cycles where by the next presidential cycle, I think Democrats will probably go back to the drawing board and maybe come more towards the center. Do you see that happening too?
I think that's inevitable. And I think that right now we're looking at a time where Democrats are lost. They don't have a message, they don't have a messenger. They are polling at their lowest support, right? You've seen the same polls I have that show record low support for Democrats in this country. That doesn't mean that that's where they're going to be 2 years from now. It doesn't mean where they're going to be 4 years from now. What they need to do is do the soul searching. I'm not convinced that they're doing it yet. I'm not convinced that they're doing it wisely or they're doing it right. They have a bad split in their party right now, and they need to be honest with each other. And I'm not sure that's where they are yet. I agree with you that if they're smart, they wind up back in the middle. They wind up in a pragmatic position rather than an ideological position. That's where they need to get. The question is, are they going to get there?
Based on that, in 2020, I mean, it's still a lifetime away. We're seeing some Democrats right now kind of like, getting to the center stage, as they say. We see California Governor Gavin Newsom, who I think has a tough record to defend. I know a lot of
California,
people in
right?
California, how it's been run into the ground almost. Certainly Governor Tim Walz, former VP running mate for Kamala Harris. Obviously, I think he's been doing the talk show circuit, right?
Right.
Nearby, Josh Shapiro in Pennsylvania,
Yes.
Westmore in Maryland.
Chris Murphy
Um,
in Connecticut. Yep.
I got to tell you, one guy who I think would have considerable trouble in 2028, and I know there's some, it's been thrown out there. Maybe he has some aspirations. I really hope for his sake that Phil Murphy doesn't think that he's a viable candidate in 2028, Michael.
I can't imagine that he does. I think he's probably run his last election. That's just a guess. I think look, he's an executive, so it's not that he wouldn't love to grab for that brass ring, but I think he knows it's not that. I don't think you're going to see him running for Congress. I don't think you're going to see him running for the Senate. I think this is it. I think this is really it. Look, every New Jersey governor since Woodrow Wilson has thought that they potentially could be president. Have there been moments where he thought that? I think so. But I think he also knows a lot of this has to do with timing. A lot of this has to do with popularity and, has to do nationwide profile. I don't think it's there. I just don't think it has materialized for him. And I don't think you get any argument from him in an honest moment. I don't see him seeing himself running for governor.
No,
Or
fair
for
point
president
too.
either.
Fair
Yeah.
point too. Michael, before I let you go, man, this has been a great conversation. We could do 3 hours and not get through everything. That's how good
Let's
it's
do it
been.
again. I love it. Yeah.
I really appreciate it. Before I let you go, we've gotten to know Micah Rasmussen, the academic, the director of the Rebovich Institute for New Jersey Politics at Rider University, I guess, political commentator. Let's
Yeah.
get to know in a lightning round, Micah, the man.
Go
Micah, the
for it.
guy. All right.
Go
So
for
let's
it.
do that. Favorite baseball team?
Yankees, although it's been a long time since
Okay,
I
same here. Big Yankee fan. I do like our offseason. I'm not going to lie to you. I think not re-signing Soto was the smart move financially. We got to sort of fill in a lot of holes. Yes, the injury bug is hitting us right now, but I think the reigning and defending American League champions will be in the conversation in the American League in October. What do you think?
Well, I wish I could tell you that I followed. Like I said, it's been decades since
Okay.
You asked me for a team, so I told you because I wouldn't be rooting for anybody else, family wise, all that stuff.
Gotcha.
But it's been many, many, many years.
Gotcha.
So I'm sorry that I can't Can't keep up with you there.
Gotcha. Favorite NFL team?
Giants, but
Okay.
again, same thing, same thing. Yeah.
Okay.
I shouldn't even say that because the Johnson family has been very good to Rebovich. They've been great, but again, family wise, historically, my grandparents went to the games in the 40s, so I mean, how can you not root for the team that your family's over?
Now, is that the Jets? Because I know the Giants partner up with Ryder too, right? And
the Giants do. Giants do have internships with
Okay.
Ryder. Absolutely, you're right.
Okay.
Yeah.
NBA? Any NBA team you like, or do you follow the NBA?
I am a college ball guy, and I'm partial to Ryder. Again, it's been a long time, but boy, my most exciting moments in watching basketball have been, Ryder playing basketball.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hockey aficionado at all?
No, my daughter's picking up lacrosse this year, so I'll be following that. That's the closest I'm going to get. I went to an exciting Flyers game when I was little with a friend. We were like 10 years old, and we heard the F-bomb thrown in like 8 different verb tenses or nouns. It was pretty wild. We sat right behind the bench, and it was quite an impression on a little kid. But yeah.
Any boxing, WWE, MMA?
No, none of that. I'm sorry to say, no.
Okay.
No.
Marvel Comics or DC Comics at all?
Boy, am I sounding boring here. Oh my God.
No.
My wife watches the Marvel movies. I haven't even watched those. I'm sorry.
Okay. Favorite
I like
cuisine?
James Bond. I'm more a James Bond guy, but
you know what? I'm glad you said that. My dad, who, by the way, happy 80th birthday to my dad. We just celebrated this weekend. So he's the one who got me into James Bond at a very young age. I've read a lot of the Ian Fleming books.
Yes.
I love the adaptation of the movies. I've seen every movie. Listen, I wasn't too happy with the last one. I get why you had to kill him off and recast it, and let's see who the next James Bond is. Yes. I get a feeling Henry Cavill would be a good James Bond just because of the tall, dark, and handsome, I guess, aspect of what James Bond is.
Yes.
Favorite James Bond movie?
Oh, I mean Goldfinger. I'm a purist, I think. Yeah. Okay. How about you?
Well, I would argue my favorite James Bond is Sean Connery. I mean, that's the one that my dad got me into from a very young age.
No question.
Yes.
I mean, I like what a smartass Roger Moore was, but still,
absolutely. Listen, I think every actor from Sean Connery to Roger Moore to Timothy Dalton to Pierce Brosnan to everybody to Daniel. I forgot Daniel.
Daniel. Yeah.
Daniel Gray. No,
right.
It'll come to me. But
right.
I look at the way Connery mastered that role, and you think about, again, early 60s, not the technology we're seeing today in movies. There's no CGI, and what they did with these movies for special effects, for plot lines, it's extraordinary, Micah.
And you talk about I mean, I know this is like a loaded term and stuff in these days, but you talk about a masculinity. This is like a classic masculinity. This is a guy who, he knew exactly what to drink. He knew exactly who to date. He knew, he's just very confident, right? Very bold. And you couldn't help but smile whenever you saw him in action.
No, absolutely. Favorite cuisine?
I mean, I'm a barbecue guy. I might be the only one in my family who thinks so, but I appreciate there's a place in the Trenton Farmers Market that does it authentically. He's a Southern guy who came up and just does it in Jersey, and he does brisket really, really well. That's probably my favorite. Yeah.
Well, if you ever make it up to Jersey City, Boots and Bones is arguably the best barbecue in Hudson County. So it's right by the Grove Street Path train station. So just to let you know. Last one, favorite American president?
Oh, so, I mean, Lincoln, there's no question that Lincoln saved the country. I mean, there's no question about that. So Lincoln's got to be on the list. I grew up, I suspect, as you did, we're not comparing our ages, but I grew up with Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan was my president. And so, larger than life, and this is not about policy, but just made the country feel good about itself and knew how to play that role of the president. And, just like nobody else. I like those two. I certainly like Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton, I think, is remembered fondly in this country for presiding over good economic times. Whether that's all him or not all him, that's, product of the times. And I think, very successful president at a time when Democrats were not being so successful. So I think those three maybe, just pop out. I love teaching the American president. We did a crazy thing in 15 weeks we each picked like 3 or 4 presidents, all the students in the class, and everybody presented so that we could get a flavor for all of the presidents. And it was a crazy marathon, but everybody really felt like we had the ground really covered by the end of the semester. So that was fun.
Now that you mentioned that, one of my favorite movies growing up, and it's still, whenever it's on TV, I'll have it playing in the background because I've almost memorized most of it. But Rob Reiner's The American President, I thought was one of the really great movies back from the 90s that really, I think elevated and it really put under the microscope, I think, the life of the American president, right?
Yes.
Like the day-to-day. The realism was amazing. I think the sets were great. Michael Douglas playing President Andrew Shepard, I thought was a very good I argue one of his best roles that never got him an Oscar, I thought.
I agree. Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm sorry to say this, but and this is definitely something where it's both parties' fault, right? You look at State of the Union, that was, just the response to that with the signs in the room, not what anybody wants to see as far as how our president is seen and regarded. Of course, again, I'm not here to say that one part or the other, because Joe Wilson started that with calling Obama a liar how many years ago. But I think those days of revering the presidency, of looking at it almost like, sacrosanct, is long behind us. Better or worse, it's that's a time that's behind us, unfortunately.
No, certainly well said there. Micah, listen, I got to tell you, man, I've enjoyed this conversation. We broke down a lot. I think better than anybody right now in New Jersey media. We've really broken this gubernatorial race down, assembly races down. I appreciate your insight. Certainly, folks, again, check out rider.edu for all the information available, not just about the Rebovich Institute for New Jersey Politics there, but also if you're looking to enroll your son or daughter in a really, really reputable university here in New Jersey. It's affordable. It's pretty centralized. Great campus. Yes. I got to visit it. Visit rider.edu, folks, for more information about enrollment, academic programs, and much more. Micah, it's been a great conversation. I definitely want to have you back on soon. I'll give you the last word here tonight on Real Talk.
Oh, boy. Well, thank you for having me. Great conversation. Really loved it. We covered so much ground, I think, from the really federal down to the local. You can't do that. You can't BS your way through that. You got to know your stuff. And so I really admire your knowledge. It's not a lot of shows where you can cover that much ground in one time. So thank you very much. You're doing your listeners your watchers, your great service.
I appreciate it, Mike. That's kind of you, bro. I appreciate that. And folks, again, if you want to get involved with the Rebovich Institute for New Jersey Politics at Rider University, again, go to rider.edu. Click on the link for the Rebovich Institute. And if you're looking to get involved or even donate, right? I mean, you can donate to the
Of course. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
love to talk
folks,
about that.
It's tax time. And if you have any disposable income after your tax returns, click the donate button. And it is safe, secure, and tax deductible to donate.
Great thing with internships, paid internship. If a student takes an unpaid internship, I try to make them the money that they can do an unpaid. They can do a stipend so that they're not penalized for the time that they spend in that internship. So that's what I spend a fair amount of my time raising money for that.
Micah, let's grab dinner during the springtime somewhere. Maybe we meet halfway and we'll grab dinner and bullshit a little bit more about this crazy political season in New Jersey. All right,
sounds good to me, man.
All right,
thanks
folks.
Again for having me.
Absolutely, folks. He is Micah Rasmussen, again, the director of the Rebovich Institute for New Jersey Politics at Rider University. Our guest tonight here on Real Talk. Micah, by the way, again, happy Easter coming up. Happy Father's Day coming up.
Thank you very much.
And enjoy yourself. Man. And we'll talk to you again soon here.
All right. Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Folks, good stuff there with Micah Rasmussen again, the director of the Rebovich Institute at Rider University. Good stuff there, folks. Again, it's a little after 7:20 here on the East Coast. Some good traffic, folks. Some good numbers here. Everyone tuning in here. If you haven't done so already, takes 2 seconds. Like, comment, and share tonight's episode and let everybody know how much you enjoy Real Talk right here on Jersey First TV. Folks, do not go anywhere because guess what? I know you've been waiting for it. It's time for Final Thoughts. And folks, I got to tell you, Final Thoughts is going to be interesting this week because we got a lot of ground to cover. So let's get to it here. Let's start with, of course, as we all know, Trump derangement syndrome continues to run wild in New Jersey. It's happening in our media, in higher education, activism, advocacy, you name it. And there's no shortage of those who exhibit serious symptoms of Trump derangement syndrome, right? I mean, obviously, you have Antoinette Miles with the New Jersey Working Families Party. You have Joe Amaditas from Woke State over there at Montclair. Okay. Obviously, you have Sleepy Al with Insider NJ. How that website's still up and running is beyond me. And of course, it's 7:24. Yeah, it's way past Sleepy Al's bedtime. So, Alan Steinberg, I'm sure, will catch the replay. He can't help himself. But folks, there's no shortage again of TDS that we see, especially in our media, right? Whether it's Alan Steinberg, whether it's John Van Vliet, whether it is, again, those in higher education, working at Montclair State University, whether it's those that could be very lazy in media. All right, we all know who they are. Okay. But when we think about Trump derangement syndrome, and we think about what's going on right now, about what's free speech on our college campuses, right? Folks, you can always rely on the resident cat lady and virtue signaler to be outraged about something. And of course, that's my favorite cat lady, Amy Torres, the executive director of the New Jersey Alliance for Immigrant Justice. I mean, I can smell the cat piss through this picture right now. That's how evident it is. But it would seem that Amy Torres, like many progressives, are now selectively outraged about Mahmoud Khalil. You know what I'm talking about, right? The jihadist at Columbia University who was here on a student visa, the Syrian national who contributed to the destruction of property on the grounds of Columbia University, right? Espousing rhetoric that is certainly not just anti-American, but hostile towards the United States and favoring a terrorist group like Hamas, right? We've seen this. This is not me concocting anything, Amy. But like many progressives, it seems like when it comes to 80-20 issues, you insist on being on the 20% of it, right? And for everyone that needs a refresher, right, folks, what do we see since October of 2023 on our college campuses? What do we see? Not just across the river in New York City specifically, whether it's NYU, whether it's the New School, whether it's Bernard, or whether it's at Jihadist University. I'm sorry, my bad. Columbia University in the Upper West Side. Not unlike other journalists in New Jersey who never leave their house, like yours truly actually does some work. So let's take you back in time to remind everybody about how out of control it was getting with all of these jihadists, for example, at Columbia University. Let's take you back. And of course, who better to report live on the scene than a journalist that actually gets out of his house and actually does work, which is more than I can say for all the lazy journalists that I know of in New Jersey media, like Uncle Dave, David Cruz, Max Pizarro, Alan Steinberg, Jay Lassiter, Chucky Style once in a while leaves his house, but not, frequently. All right. But who's the only one that really made it a point to go to Columbia University on a regular basis and be in the trenches? Yes, right, folks. It's New Jersey's premier award-winning journalist.
Hi, everyone. It's New Jersey's premier award-winning journalist, and certainly it's quite an experience to be here in Jihadist University here at Columbia, right? As you can see all the jihadists here. Obviously, with their typical pro-Palestinian defense and enabling and their typical apologies here. As you can see, obviously, folks, it's, obviously you can see here, it's jihadists everywhere here at Jihadist University, right? So here as a broadcast journalist, want to, be up close in the trenches here, at Columbia University. Hi, everyone. It's New Jersey's premier award-winning journalist here live at Jihadist University here on the Upper West Side in New York City. And I figure, being a premier award-winning journalist, I like to be out in the trenches. I like to be out in the streets as a man of the people and seeing all these jihadists out here, right, at the campus here of Jihadist University, right? Is it called something else? Columbia University, maybe? It's really Jihadist University, folks, here. And I figured, let me just be here and get some good footage here of all the jihadists here, voicing their First Amendment right, but acting like complete asses, let's be honest, because that's what they're doing. But, there's always people out there that defend it. So Yes, so great job by the NYPD because they have to condone and not really contain it. Hi everyone, it's New Jersey's premier award-winning journalist here, live at Jihadist University on the Upper West Side. I think it's called something else, but let's be honest, it's really Jihadist University. And I just got to say here, as you can hear, great job by the NYPD having to control and contain all this nonsense by all of these jihadists here at Columbia. So to be honest with you, I want to be just kind of like see it for myself because we've seen it on Instagram and Twitter and YouTube and Facebook, but I kind of want to see jihadists up close because that's what they are. They're jihadists. They're, you know, again, pro-Palestinian apologists, defenders, enablers. We all know the types, right? We all know who they are. Some of them are friends of mine, right? So I figured I'd be here and check out all these jihadists because that's what they are, really, here. And of course, you know, why not? Since I'm in New York City, let me just check out exactly what's going on here with all these jihadists. So let me just sort of go through a little bit more here and see what they're doing. Yes, wave hi to the camera. All the jihadists here at Columbia. All right. Yes. 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 All the jihadists. Isn't that great? All the jihadists. Isn't that wonderful?
Oh my God, like that's a pretty handsome guy, right? My goodness. Damn, do I look good on camera? Folks, as a reminder again about what we've been seeing on our college campuses going back to October of 2023. And so the sort of selective moral outrage about Mahmoud Khalil seems a little manufactured, but especially when you see images like this.
All right, red team, blockade. Blockade, ready? Circle blockade around these three. We're gonna move them out. Let's go.
Another human chain.
Get someone, wrap around, get inside the ring. Red, back up by the center door. Red, back up by the center door.
This isn't how you do that. Come on. Yeah.
Yes, it is. It's 100% assault.
I got it on video.
Red, back
Don't
up.
worry.
100% assault. Sir, this is 100% assault.
Can you get them to chill out?
This is 100%
Get them to
assault.
chill out. Anyone. It's
Is someone recording this? Are you recording
I
this?
got it.
This is 100% assault. What is your name? What is your name?
All right, walk out, walk
What
out.
is your name?
Red team. Free Palestine.
Can you wrap around that side? Please, everybody. You don't need to do this.
Can we get back up behind us? Red team behind us.
It's too much.
Circle up and red team behind us. Let's go.
Watch the step.
We got it. Let's go.
Assaulting
One at a
you?
time.
You physically assaulting you?
Red team, we got it. Link up with them. Red team, let's go. Hold on tight. Watch out. Be safe. Move slow.
Come on.
Okay, I'm
That's
gonna
not
go
what it looks like to me.
You
I'm not fighting. You guys are the ones dragging people away.
Guys, this is assault.
You're
assault.
shoving me.
All
right.
So you know, you
I
don't want to
will stop
do
shoving you.
this. This will ruin your whole life.
Oh, sorry,
Ruin
okay.
your whole life.
You're hurting people. Are you okay? I'm so sorry. All right, guys, pause for a second. I'm so sorry.
Guys, this is assault. You don't understand the severity.
Okay, guys, circle up. We have to get this man out. He's not out yet.
He's my friend. I'm trying to get him and my other friend out.
Okay, thank you.
I'm trying to get them out. Don't mess with me. Why are you trying to get us out?
Folks, again, this is the behavior that Amy Torres is happy to support. And we know that jihadists like Mahmoud Khalil and others that engage in this reprehensible behavior. Again, it's nice, but you know, a real journalist, not like some lazy Mickey Mouse journalists, like so many in New Jersey. See, I'm in the trenches. I'm on the scene there, taking footage, seeing it from my own eyes, not believing rhetoric or clickbait, like seeing it with my own eyes, that this is the behavior that Jewish students and Jewish faculty members have had to face for years. Okay? Going back decades, but now, especially after October the 7th, in 2023, this is the behavior you saw on college campuses. not just for Jewish students, but now also you saw it for Jewish faculty members. Don't believe me? Folks, you have eyes and ears.
Is the university keeping the media out? This is the COO of the university. Are we not letting the media in? What? Can you back up, please? My card has been deactivated? Why? Can you back up, please? Wait. Everybody, my card has been deactivated. This is Cass Holloway, the COO. This is Gerald Lewis. They were in the meeting where I asked them if Hamas is a terror organization, and they couldn't say that it is a terrorist organization. Why? I'm a professor. Why can't I?
Shai,
No. Speak out loud so the media.
Shai, we are willing to take you to the math lawn.
No, I am a professor here.
Alumnus. We have a
Wait, everybody quiet. I am a professor here. I have every right to be everywhere on campus. You cannot let people that support Hamas on campus and me, a professor, not go on campus. Let me in now.
Let us in.
No.
Let Shai in.
Are you not letting a professor go on campus?
Let him in.
And you know
Let Shai in.
No, you're gonna let me. No, you're gonna let me everywhere. You're gonna let me in any public space on campus, and you know this. If you are not allowed there, then you say that you're not allowed there. I am allowed there. And wait, no, listen to me now. You will listen to me. I rarely listen. I rarely lose my. You know what? I wish you'd let me into my job. No, everybody, please. Can I stand here so people will see me? Is that okay, or you're not letting me do it?
This is a disgrace to the institution and the alumnus.
Everybody silent! Everybody! Over here we got the COO of Columbia University, Mr. Cass Holloway. Wait, no! They have deactivated my card. They are not letting me on campus because...
Or perhaps folks seeing reckless behavior on our college campuses. Again, let's go back to Jahas University in the Upper West Side, otherwise known as Columbia University.
Atrás do outro, então provavelmente aqueles primeiros policiais que a gente acompanhou a noite atrás entrando, deram ok, e agora os policiais vão por entrando por esse vidro, aí a janela foi quebrada e vidro.
But again, folks, this is what's great about law enforcement doing their job last year. Because arguably, whether it's Amy Torres, Mahmoud Khalil, jihadists on our college campuses, essentially what they want, folks, this is what they want. And this is not hyperbole, this is fact. This is what they want. Do you? I don't. This is what we're seeing, folks. Is this what you want, Amy? And the rest of all you pro-Palestinian sympathizers and whiny crybabies? Is this what you want on our college campuses? Is this what we want our kids exposed to? I know. And these are universities getting taxpayer subsidies, right? Is this what we want? All right, enough of this bullshit. I don't want to look at that anymore than I have to. Okay, but folks, let's get to the heart of the matter here. And let's look at someone like Mahmoud Khalil in his own words and his own behavior and what he advocates for. Don't believe me? You have eyes and ears.
Baby killers. Shame. Please don't get away, people.
Yes, folks, that is, again, probably the best representation of what Mahmoud Khalil is. And these are the type of people that woke crusaders like Amy Torres and the like will prop up and put on a pedestal. And I've been trying to find the words to best describe what should happen to someone like Mahmoud Khalil, a Syrian national, who again got a visa to visit you and a green card. I don't think it's a lot to ask for someone who comes to this country to follow its laws, to not engage in, I don't know, maybe acceptable behavior. Is that so much to ask? But here's the best analysis about how to perceive Mahmoud Khalil. And I think if Amy Torres is watching, which I'm pretty sure she is, honey, I think you'd benefit greatly by listening to this.
Worst things the mainstream media is doing is they're concocting this narrative whereby there's a tension between free speech or protecting Jewish students. This has quite literally nothing to do with free speech. Mahmoud Khalil is not an American. He's a Syrian national. He came to the United States to go to one of the best or former best colleges in the United States, and he abused the privilege that was granted to him. He abused his student visa. He abused his green card status. He advocated not just for the eradication of Western civilization, but he passed out pamphlets encouraging support for Hamas on Columbia's campus. This is someone who, as I said earlier, vandalized private property, trespassed, took maintenance workers hostages, sent police officers and school employees to the hospital. So I don't understand why there is this Palestine exception that you can do whatever damage you would like and suffer zero consequences so long as you do it in support of Palestine and so long as you do it in support of Hamas, Hezbollah, or other terrorist organizations. Everyone should be treated equally under the law. And when someone violates the terms of their student visa, when someone violates the term of their green card status, then there will be consequences. As I said, the era of accountability is finally here. This is not just a Jewish issue. This is just an anti-Semitism issue. This is an issue pertaining to the United States and our upholding of the American democracy system.
Folks, I could not have said it better myself. And that's exactly the best way to look at this when it comes to Mahmoud Khalil. But you would think Amy Torres, and again, I get it, when you're home, living off your husband's money, scratching your ass, ordering repeatedly throughout the day on Uber Eats, your third cappuccino from Starbucks, making six figures, coddling illegals, advocating for left-wing causes. You would think that at some point in time, Amy Torres, okay, and again, folks, I can smell the cat piss right through the picture here, okay, somewhere common sense would infiltrate that thick head of hers. But that's not the case. And that's what makes it sad. And what's even funnier is for idiots like Amy Torres to conflate free speech with a blatant violation of law. Don't believe me? Let's check out some of the screenshots from her Twitter page. Okay? And mind you, this is a woman who thought Twitter was way too toxic and privatized her page because she wanted her tweets protected because, Twitter was too toxic for this woman. Okay? So, of course, she feels the need to get back on Twitter because she can't make up her mind. Well, wow, really? A woman who can't make up her mind? Wow, color me surprised. Okay? These are some of the screenshots here. And again, you can sort of look at them for yourself. Okay? I'll let you read that there, of course. I'm so grateful to my big cousin who sent me down to talk about yellow peril and Japanese internment as a teen. And I feel like this should send everyone running around and screaming. To know AAPI history is to know American violence and imperialism. Right? You probably have to go through like ChatGPT just to formulate those sentences. And then let's double down on it on the page to say, 83 years ago, the U.S. invoked the Alien Enemies Act to violate the rights and dignities of Japanese Americans through indefinite, indiscriminate internment. It's a stain on our history. By the way, enacted by a Democrat president, but Amy won't tell you that. She was asleep the day that they taught U.S. history at whatever school she went to. Okay? President Trump has just invoked it again. Now is the time. Join the movement, stand up and fight. Okay. Folks, this is what's interesting about someone like Amy Torres. Okay. Because very simply, and again, I've been watching this over the weekend and marinate on cable news and sort of mainstream news. And the best way I can describe it is sort of, having watched the morning shows today and yesterday on ABC, CBS, and NBC, it's clear, for example, that people like Amy Torres would rather be on the side of, let's say, Venezuelan gang members, right, who come into the country illegally over the safety of American citizens, comparing them to, for example, Japanese Americans thrown into internment camps by a Democrat president named FDR. But this is someone who, again, would rather virtue signal and coddle illegals and be on the 80-20 side of every issue because, again, she just can't help herself, right? And, of course, she's also going to be outraged about gang members from Venezuela that have been apprehended and shipped out of the country. Good riddance. But you would think Amy Torres would be clapping about that, right? Because Amy Torres cares about what happens to Americans. No, she doesn't care. She'll be the first one to bitch and moan about the Laken Riley Act and other Americans that have been killed at the hands of illegals. Because at the end of the day, Amy Torres doesn't care that illegals have been crossing the border for years, having their kids here, overcrowding our schools, ruining the quality of life in our communities. When you have multiple illegals committing criminal acts in broad daylight, you think Amy Torres cares? Of course not. Amy Torres is more concerned about, which flavor cappuccino am I going to order from Uber Eats tomorrow? Than we actually care about the safety and well-being of everyday Americans. So whether she's cheering for despicable jihadists like Mahmoud Khalil or Venezuelan gang members that have been deported, thankfully, this is what you can come to expect, folks, from reprehensible, disgusting humans like Amy Torres, who I have zero respect for. Folks, imagine coming home to that. I don't know who her husband is, but bro, you must be like, I feel sorry for this mother effer. Imagine coming home to this disgusting human, going to bed next to this and waking up next to this, when you know that you're married to just an intellectually and morally bankrupt woman. That's who Amy Torres is, folks. And of course, Amy Torres would rather, again, go to safe spaces like, she could always rely on Uncle Dave and NJ Spotlight News to always coddle her and acquiesce to her and, and peddle all the nonsense and all the victimhood for illegals that she champions so many causes for. Folks, when we know that Amy Torres stands up for people like Mahmoud Khalil, Venezuelan gang members, and criminal illegals, that tells you everything you need to know about this deplorable human being. Listen, I got my flaws. I'll be the first one to name them. But my God, is there anyone more flawed in not just Hudson County politics, but New Jersey politics and advocacy and activism than Amy Torres? Kind of hard to find one. But folks, she's pretty despicable. I don't mind saying the quiet part out loud. And you know what? I'll never stop saying it. Speaking about despicable, let's get to another despicable man in New Jersey politics and a guy who thinks he's a journalist, but he's not. If anything, he's just a professional agitator. And that's Leonard Filipowski. I'm not going to call him by his stupid stage name. Okay, I'm going to refer to him by his legal name, Leonard Filipowski. Okay. And a shout out to HUD-Post, the exceptional staff there. Okay. Especially their editor-in-chief, James De Los Santos, for his reporting on this very important story. Okay. Now, they broke the exclusive last week that the Recording Academy confirms that Leonard Filipowski is not a Grammy winner. Again, you can see the cover shot there. Now, for over a year, Leroy Truth, real name Leonard Filipowski, has positioned himself as an independent investigator targeting political figures, media outlets, and government institutions throughout Hudson County. His videos and confrontational tactics have gained traction in local activist circles. Yes, folks, the usual lame-ass agitators online like Full Court Press or Long Island Truth or the rest of the slapnuts online that somehow look at him and revere him, right? with online audiences who see him as an outsider exposing corruption. But now a key part of Filipowski's public persona has been exposed as a lie. What else is new? The Recording Academy Communications Department has officially confirmed to HuffPost that Leonard Filipowski, publicly known as Leroy Truth, is not a Grammy Award winner, despite his repeated claims. In an exclusive statement, the Academy made it clear that contributing musicians and composers on Grammy-winning albums do not automatically qualify as Grammy winners, particularly in the polka category, in which Filipowski was involved in. Jesus Christ, the polka, really? Oh my God. Quote, Mr. Filipowski is not a Grammy Award winner, the Academy stated. When asked if his work as a pianist and composer on a Grammy Award-winning album made him eligible for an award, the Academy was indeed definitive. Quote, no, it was not an eligibly credited role for a Grammy win in this category. Now, Filipowski isn't making this claim, though it is unclear when he first started. He has referred to himself as a Grammy Award-winning pianist in social media posts and also on YouTube videos. Now, the claim was disputed by HuffPost in January when we reported on an incident at a monumental Baptist church in the south side of Jersey City. You'll remember that, right? When this idiot decided to throw himself to the ground because he was asked to leave after nobody asked him to play a piano. But again, that's what Leonard thinks. Leonard just thinks he can just show up somewhere, act like an asshole, right? And just touch whatever he wants, play a piano, and that there's no repercussion for it. No, Leonard, there is. You can't just walk in anywhere like you own the place and not expect that there aren't going to be ramifications. So he was asked to leave. And of course, when Jersey police officers went to grab him to remove him, what does he do? He flops quicker than LeBron James by throwing himself on the floor. It was pretty embarrassing, folks. The video is out there. Okay. Now, at the time, HuffPost examined public records and Grammy archives, finding no evidence that he ever won the award. Now the Recording Academy itself has confirmed that he was never a Grammy winner, fully debunking the claim. After our reporting, Filipowski responded in an appearance on the Long Island Audit YouTube channel, a First Amendment, quote, audit platform with over 900,000 subscribers. Okay. Well, folks, I mean, shitty content gets views as well. So, I mean, if you want to talk about who views Long Island Audit, I mean, there's your answer. When asked directly about HuffPost's reporting, Filipowski shifted the narrative, of course, admitting he never received a Grammy trophy, but insisted he was still a winner. Folks, gotta give it to Leonard. You know, just when you think he can't get any more delusional, he'll find a way to outdo himself. Quote, I was on multiple Grammy records with Jimmy Sturr and his orchestra, Filipowski said. When a musician plays on a Grammy Award-winning album, we are Grammy Award winners. Well, no, that's not the case. And clearly, credit to James De Los Santos for getting the clarity that we all needed. However, Filipowski urged viewers to verify his claim by looking up the song I Love to Polka. Jesus Christ. I mean, oh my God. On Wikipedia, because we all know Wikipedia is a very trustworthy source. A song he says he composed, but an examination of the album's official credits tells a different story. Folks, listen, I don't have to really go into the rest of it. But what have we learned about Leonard Filipowski, right? Since he's been here since late 2023, he's been nothing but an agitator and also a clown. Here's the best example of Leonard being his usual clown persona. Who thought it was a good idea to take a picture on a motorcycle, Leonard, wearing white socks, brown dress shoes, black dress pants, and a tank top when, again, if you're going to wear a tank top, I would hope that you don't miss chest, traps, or arms day at the gym, which clearly you have. So who thought this was a good idea to arguably post the least masculine photo possible of a man to a social media post? Well, that's Leonard Filipowski, who conveys this tough guy persona, but the minute you sneeze on him, he's looking to sue you, report you, or have you arrested. That, folks, is, in essence, who Leonard Filipowski is. But what's even more interesting is not just Leonard, right, but the online minions that endorse him and support him, right? You have local clowns like Jose Garrido, right? when he's not hobbling around after, or whatever other sob story he's talking about, his current existence. These are the local clowns that endorse Leonard Filipowski. A guy who swears he's hard up for money, but somehow this idiot finds a way to spend money buying replica championship belts. Oh, God. Folks, I'm as big a pro wrestling fan as there is, but I've never purchased a championship belt because I'm a grown adult, which is more than I can say for Jose Garrido. So when he's not hobbling around, on his two bad feet, he's out there conveying his latest sob story in his social media post. These are the people, clowns like this, that endorse Leonard Filipowski. Right? That somehow put Leonard on a pedestal and think that he's the greatest thing to journalism, which he's not. See about clowns that also embolden Leonard Filipowski. We have, for example, retired malcontents like Joe Blaitler, former assistant chief in the Union City Police Department. And for a guy that retired with a pension of over six figures and owns a home in Morris County and in Florida, I have never met a more miserable mother effer that still complains about how bad his life is. Really? That's who Joe Blaitler is. And I guess he feels emboldened, or maybe, I don't know, he gets a testosterone rush by challenging people to go roll with him on a jiu-jitsu mat. Yes, folks, I engage and train with jiu-jitsu, and shout out to Ray Rodriguez, the outstanding owner of 48th Street Jiu-Jitsu in Union City. Yes, and it's done wonders for me. I've lost weight. I've gotten better cardiovascular condition, and it's just been a great form of discipline. But of course, God forbid you say something out loud about Joe Blaitler, he'll feel like, his old ass wants to challenge you to rolling on a mat any day at any time. No, Joe, again, unlike you, I'm not retired. I have work to do. I have a job. I have multiple jobs. Okay? I have things to do with my time. Okay? Unlike you that sits on your ass collecting a nice pension, which again, you deserved. You put in the time, no problem. But for a guy that we all know has admitted to running bullshit pages on Facebook like Inside Brian Stacks Union City, this is a guy who will continue to keep being whiny and salty. Folks, I thought areas around the Arctic Ocean were salty. That pales in comparison to the amount of salt that's conveyed by Joe Blaitler. Again, can someone, and I know that, it's 8 o'clock. It's way past his bedtime. He's not even watching this live. Okay. But I'm sure he'll watch it. He can't help himself. But these are the malcontents that endorse Leonard Filipowski and somehow think he's the greatest thing to journalism, which once again, he's not. Or for example, another retired malcontent like Ernie Rivera-Batiz. Chiquitin, let's be honest, folks, all 5'2" of him, right? With his incoherent social media posts, his infantile and adolescent memes at the expense of people, is exactly that, infantile. And for a guy like Ernie Rivera-Batiz, who, let's be fair, folks, this illiterate, very much like Jose Garrido Jr., I mean, let's be honest about Ernie. The only A's this dimwit ever saw on his report card were in his name, because he wasn't seeing A's anywhere else. But once again, folks, these are the clowns that continue to, again, put Leonard Filipowski on a pedestal. Retired malcontents who somehow revere this clown who calls himself a journalist, and once again, folks, is probably the least journalistic human I've ever seen. Okay? Copying and pasting Facebook posts to a news site or wannabe news site, that's not news, Leonard. That's just you being a child. And I'm glad that a reputable news site like HuffPost got to expose you, because you deserve it. You've been nothing but a nuisance and nothing but an outright bother to elected officials, to residents. Bro, you're like in your mid to late 60s. You're a grown-ass man. Start acting like it. And again, whoever's funding Leonard Filipowski, that remains to be seen. I've heard sources tell me who it is. I'm not going to mention them by name or who the benefactor is. But folks, this act is getting really old. It really is. And you would think that Leonard would kind of, I don't know, act his age and not, as they say, his IQ. But that's what he's doing here. So shout out to HUDPost for exposing idiots like Leonard Filipowski, who do such an immense disservice to journalism. Because here in Hudson County, when it comes to real journalism, like Real Talk via Jersey First TV, via the Jersey City Times also with its editor Aaron Morrill, with its Hudson County View with its editor John Robert Hines, Hudson County TV with Julio Reynoso and Jeff Hanning, and of course, HUDPost with its editor James Los Santos. Let's only not forget Hoboken Patch, as well as tap into Jersey City with great columnists like Al Sullivan. Folks, we're all real journalists. We're doing the people's work here, which is more than I can say about someone like Leonard Filipowski. Who, let's be honest, does he do any real work? I highly doubt it. But again, that's why he fits so well with losers like Joe Blaitler, Ernie Rivera-Batiz, Jose Garrido, John Bender, whoever's portraying this Willie Musto page on Facebook. Folks, are these the clowns you want to align yourself with? I highly doubt that. Seems like Leonard hasn't gotten the memo. The fact is, he never will. So, folks, when it comes to real journalism, it's not Leonard Filipowski. And the sad part is, he thinks he's doing it when, quite frankly, he isn't. And those are my final thoughts. Folks, once again, thank you so much for tuning in here. And by the way, just as a weekly reminder, I'm going to start doing this on the show here. I know many Democrats and progressives and all the woke fools and the social justice clowns want to keep bitching and moaning about, oh my God, the economy isn't working. No, it's working, folks. Egg prices have dropped again. They were $6.55 when Joe Biden left office and Donald Trump assumed the presidency. And guess what? Just a little over 2 months later, they've dropped 47%. Gas is down. Interest rates for mortgages are down. So guess what? This is what I voted for, and so did many of you. So let the good times keep coming in 2025. And that's our show for this week, folks. Once again, I want to thank Micah Rasmussen, the director of the Rebovich Institute for New Jersey Politics at Rider University, for an exciting and very informative program earlier today. So I want to thank him for that. Folks, don't forget to like us on Facebook. Of course, follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, of course, whether it's on Spotify or SoundCloud. Download Jersey First TV and take us with you anywhere at any time. Folks, we're working hard for you each and every week here on Jersey First TV. And speaking of Jersey First TV, folks, it's the dream team that continues to bring you informative content every single week. Brand new episodes of The Nader Narrative premiere every Thursday, hosted by the outstanding Elizabeth Nader. Check your local listings for start times. And, of course, brand new episodes of Real Talk with Fernando Uribe premiere every Monday night live. Of course, check your local listings, of course, for start times. And, folks, we'll continue to educate and advocate for the residents here in the great state of New Jersey. Folks, always remember, it's unbiased, unfiltered, and unafraid. It's always Real Talk right here on the Jersey First Television Network. I am the generational talent in Garden State Media. Certainly, folks, I'll continue to be the weapon of mass disruption because my level of honesty, now more than ever, ladies and gentlemen, is truly necessary in this era of journalistic deception. That's right. It's me, Fernando Uribe. Folks, please party responsibly. Enjoy the rest of your St. Patrick's Day holiday again. Take an Uber or Lyft if you need to. Enjoy the warm weather this week, folks. We'll see you next week here, live on the latest edition of Real Talk on the Jersey First Television Network. Folks, enjoy March Madness. Again, please gamble responsibly. Enjoy as baseball's right around the corner. Enjoy the NBA, NHL as the playoffs are quickly approaching. I got to tell you, folks, a lot to catch up on in New Jersey politics, and nobody does it better than Jersey First TV. Enjoy the rest of your week, folks. Thanks for stopping by. And always remember, stay classy, everyone.